Am I the a-hole for paying for my kids' class trip when their stepsister and step-cousin can't go? My ex and I, both 30, broke up 8 years ago after our twins were born. We had only been dating for 14 months when she got pregnant, and we tried to stay together during the pregnancy to see if we could make it work for our kids. But then she met someone else, fell for him, and wanted to have a chance at love. The breakup was pretty smooth and amicable, and we co-parented well for the first couple of years. But then she met her husband, not the guy she fell for while we were together, and things changed. Her husband was a single dad raising his daughter, who was the same age as our kids, and she declared I would be responsible for including her like she was my child too, if I was buying gifts or doing anything fun with our kids. This led to a lot of problems, and now we basically parent separately instead of co-parenting. I was expected to babysit her stepdaughter and later on her nephew and her younger daughter whenever I planned fun activities for our kids. I was also supposed to spend equally on gifts for all the kids. My ex and I share 50-50 custody, and since we split the time evenly, no one pays child support. I'm really close to my kids, but I don't include the other children from their mom's house when they're with me, and I don't have much to do with the other kids. 3 years ago, her husband's nephew moved in with them, and a year later they had a daughter together. Now my kids have a stepsister, a step-cousin, and a half-sister at their mom's house, and my ex is possibly expecting another baby. This recent fight is partly about a school trip. The school my kids go to is small, so they're in the same class as their step-siblings. There's a class trip coming up in November to an interactive museum. It's an expensive trip for their age, but I can afford it, and my kids really want to go, so I paid for it. But my ex got angry because she and her husband can't afford to send a stepdaughter and a nephew on the trip. She told me I should either pay for all 4 kids to go or not send my kids at all. I refused. I told her I have the right to pay for my kids to go, and since the trip falls during my parenting time, I'm sending them. Her husband said I was sabotaging their family and being unfair to the other kids, who would have to watch their siblings go on a trip they couldn't join. He argued that I should care about all the kids. My ex backed him up and said that if the kids end up hating each other, it would be my fault. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You have zero responsibility towards children so wholly unrelated to you, and frankly, if you start, there will be a never-ending series of demands. To be honest, if they can't afford to pay for the trips, why on earth are they potentially having another child? Where are the step and nephew's parents in all this? Where are all the bio grandparents? You do need to make sure that your children are not being penalized by the mother and stepfather whilst they are with them. I dread to think what will happen when you help your kids through college. Not the a-hole. Stepdaughter only has her dad, and now my ex. Her mom is not in her life. The nephew's parents lost custody and are unsafe. My ex and her parents don't talk anymore. I have no idea what her husband's parents are like and if they're involved. I imagine there will be some controversy because I have money for my kids that they can do whatever they like with. Want an apprenticeship and to have money to help get them started? Covered. College? A big helping hand, lol. Trade? Covered in helping with other expenses during that time. Tell ex that if she doesn't stop with how you need to support her new family, you'll go for full custody and make their life easier. Not the a-hole. Your ex made her decisions about how she wanted to live her life after y'all broke up. But that's the point. You broke up. You aren't responsible for funding those decisions. It sounds like you are doing your best to respect her wishes in general when it comes to the whole dynamic. Her wishes sound kind of messed up if you ask me. But it's not your responsibility to fund the children other than yours. Instead of asking you, they should be looking at ways they can tighten their belts to fund the kids that they are responsible for. And be glad that you are 100% funding your kids for this, instead of expecting her to pay for one half theirs too. Suggestion for them. Not sure where they live, but one of them can take on Uber Eats on Friday and Saturday nights to fund a trip for the other 2 kids if they can't think of any way to make extra cash. Those are options where we live. I did it during COVID because I found myself unemployed in 2020. Then I got better employment after a couple of months. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my ex-wife after our son decided to live with me full-time? I recently got full custody of my son, and my ex-wife is furious about it. We divorced when he was 10, and originally we had a 50-50 custody arrangement. I've always tried to be fair, but over the past few years, my son has become more and more distant from his mom. One of the main reasons is that my ex has some pretty strict rules. I understand that she wants to raise him right, but grounding him for a month over one bad grade or taking away his phone for small things seemed a bit too harsh. On the other hand, I've always taken a different approach, focusing on talking things out and understanding his point of view, which he responds to better. About 6 months ago, my son asked me if he could live with me full-time. He said it felt like he couldn't breathe at his mom's house and dreaded the days he had to go back there. He also mentioned that he couldn't talk to her without getting yelled at. After discussing it with him and thinking about what would be best, I decided to support his decision. We went through the legal process and my ex fought hard against it. She accused me of trying to turn our son against her, but the court sided with us, and now he lives with me full-time. I still encourage him to visit his mom, but since the decision, he's only seen her a few times. Now, my ex is reaching out, asking for help because she says she's struggling emotionally and financially. She wants me to convince our son to spend more time with her, and has hinted that she needs money to cover expenses since she no longer gets child support. I feel bad for her, but I don't think it's my responsibility to step in. I'm already covering all the costs for our son, and I don't want to force him into a situation he doesn't want. I've suggested therapy for both of them, but she refused, saying this is all my fault and that I need to fix it. She's also been telling our friends and family that I'm being heartless by abandoning her in her time of need. Some of them are taking her side, saying I should do more to help her get back on her feet, especially financially, but I don't think that's my responsibility anymore. Not the a-hole, and anyone that says you should help financially, say that your money's going to your son, and thank them for volunteering to help her out since they want to get involved in a matter that has nothing to do with them. Not the a-hole, your money goes to your son. If they want to get involved, they can help her out themselves. She should be paying you child support, and tell her to downsize where she lives. She can get a smaller place, etc. She is not your responsibility. You don't owe her financial security. Not the a-hole. If she's struggling financially because of no longer receiving child support when she no longer has costs associated to the child, then she wasn't using it at all for the child, as it should have been in the first place. Or she's now paying for a place that has an extra room/space she can't afford. That could be true, but it's really not something OP is responsible for, not when she was the one alienated her child, driving him away to his father. Now, of course, it might become complex when other elements are involved, such as keeping a room for the child despite not having custody. But thing is, OP is already doing that on top of directly raising the child himself. That's carrying a lot of responsibilities as his. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to sign a family contract during my dad's wedding? My mom passed away 4 years ago, and now my dad is engaged to Anne. Their wedding is in 3 months, and Anne has 2 kids, a 12-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. I'm 15. Both my dad and Anne see the wedding as a fresh start for all of us, especially since Anne's husband and her kids' dad also passed away. They think this is a great opportunity to start a new chapter together as a big happy family. They want all of us to not just accept the wedding, but also commit to being close, loving each other, and promising to always be there for one another as a family. Anne's son is excited about it, but her daughter is more hesitant. She feels torn because part of her wants a new dad and family, but another part feels guilty about it. She shared this in the family therapy sessions we've been having. As for me, I'm not thrilled. I'm okay with my dad getting married, but I don't feel the same way about everything else they want. I don't love Anne or her kids, and I don't want another mom figure to take over the role that my mom had. I also don't feel comfortable promising to be there for Anne and her kids forever, especially since I don't think I'll ever actually love them. To me, this whole thing isn't exciting. It's just sad. It feels like a reminder that my mom is gone and that I'll never have my family back. I see this as my dad making a new family, but it doesn't feel like my new family. I shared these feelings with a therapist who suggested that we discuss this separately from Anne's kids. During therapy, my dad and Anne brought up this contract idea. Basically, they wanted all of us to sign a commitment to being a family. The therapist didn't think it was a good idea, but my dad and Anne insisted. They asked if we'd be willing to sign it, and I was the only one who said no. Anne's kids looked sad when I refused, and Anne seemed shocked, like she didn't realize anyone would say no. My dad was clearly disappointed, but he didn't say anything at the time. The therapist tried to suggest that the three of us, my dad, Anne, and me, talk alone, but Anne still refused. Later, my dad asked why I couldn't just say yes for his sake, and why I was refusing to do something that would make everyone else happy. He said that someday, I'd be glad that I agree because we'd all be close, and a contract would be a nice memory. Am I the a-hole for refusing to sign a contract? Not the a-hole. My brother-in-law and his second wife tried to do this when they got married and blended their families 10 years ago. The kids wanted no part of it. They didn't like each other, but the parents went ahead with the marriage and the family contract and stuff. Things never improved, and now brother-in-law is getting a divorce for the second time. Sounds like a big fight waiting to happen when all the kids hate it and don't like each other. Absolutely. Just to add my 2 cents, your dad shouldn't be calling this contract a little thing. It's a big promise to feel and act in a way you can't right now, and may never be able to feel or act. It would be way worse for your step-siblings if you did sign and then couldn't follow through. They're putting way too much pressure on you too. Honestly, it's possible that what they want you to do could happen, theoretically, but the more they try to force it, the less likely it is to happen. Yep, and I'm sure my dad and Anne's feelings would be hurt too if I did sign it and couldn't do any of it. Even without Anne's kids, I could see it being a big deal to them. But add the kids, and I know it would be a huge deal, especially if the kids' feelings get hurt. Not the a-hole. It's so sad that your dad and Anne are literally disregarding what both you and the therapist are trying to say to them. They cannot force you to have a relationship with Anne and her kids. If one grows organically, great, but forcing it will only build resentment and result in you pulling farther away. If this contract is really so minor, then why is your dad and Anne so pushy about it? Clearly it's not minor to them, nor should it be minor to you. Maybe tell your dad that if he'll agree to therapy alone with you, then you'll consider the contract so that there's a chance to talk more about this issue during therapy. They want it to happen so badly because they want us all to be on the same page about being a family. They see signing that as us being willing to make sure we become a nuclear family, and that we'll treat each other like we would a bio family. I don't know that my dad would agree to that. I think it'd make me say yes before even considering going against what Anne wanted everyone there and not leaving anyone out of therapy. Last story. Am I the a-hole for walking out of my own proposal because my boyfriend made my graduation all about him? A few days ago, something happened that I'm still trying to process. I'm 25 and just graduated from law school, which was a huge achievement for me. It took years of hard work, late nights, and a lot of stress to get through. So this was a big moment, not just for me, but also for my family and friends who supported me. We had planned a big celebration, and I was really looking forward to sharing the day with everyone who helped me along the way. My boyfriend, Tim, 28, knew how much this day meant to me. He's been with me through a lot of the tough times and has always been supportive. In the days leading up to the ceremony, he was acting a bit secretive, which I thought meant he was planning something sweet, like a dinner or a surprise to celebrate my graduation. I assumed it would be something thoughtful, but what actually happened was not what I expected. After the ceremony, we were at a reception with my family and friends, enjoying the moment. I was so proud of myself and grateful for everyone who was there. Then all of a sudden, Tim stood up, tapped his glass, and got everyone's attention. At first, I thought he was going to give a speech congratulating me on my achievement, but instead, he got down on one knee and started proposing. Don't get me wrong, I loved him and I do want to marry him. But in that moment, all I could think was, why now? His proposal didn't mention anything about my graduation, my hard work, or how proud he was of me. It was all about how we were meant to be together, how happy he was to lock me down, and how it was the perfect time for him to propose. It felt like he was making the day about him and our relationship, rather than celebrating the accomplishment I had worked so hard for. I was completely shocked and couldn't even focus on what he was saying because I felt like he had hijacked a day that was supposed to be about my success. Overwhelmed, I quietly left the room to process what had just happened. Tim found me later and he was furious. He said I embarrassed him in front of everyone and that I should have just said yes. I told him I was upset that he chose that moment to propose and felt like it turned my big day into something about him. He didn't seem to understand why I was hurt, and now we're barely speaking. Some of my friends think I overreacted and should have just been happy about the proposal, but I can't shake the feeling of being overshadowed. My family is divided. My mom understands why I'm upset, but my dad thinks I should have gone along with it and talked to Tim afterward. Now I'm left wondering if this was just bad timing or if it says something deeper about how Tim views our relationship. Am I the a-hole for walking out on a proposal because I felt like he made my graduation all about him? Proposals should never be public unless the person being proposed to has specifically said that they want friends/family/strangers involved. And that accept in public, recant in private thing is utter BS. He fully intended to make it impossible for her to say no. Quote from Opie that her boyfriend told her, "You should have just said yes." He really was focused on himself, not really even them. Some of my friends think I overreacted and that I should have been happy about the proposal, but I just can't shake this feeling of being overshadowed. Some people are so desperate to live a fairy tale that they don't actually stop and think about how your boyfriend's timing turned a day that should have been 100% about your achievements into something as much about him. That's not okay. If they can't see that, it's on them, not you. As for your boyfriend, seems like he doesn't get it because he doesn't seem to understand that you're not just an extension of him and his life track. He's so focused on his own embarrassment, he can't even find space to consider your point of view. Not a great look for him, frankly, even if he is embarrassed or hurt. Not the a-hole. That is what I said, like I have no problem with marrying him, but choosing the day which I considered important to propose, and then making it all about him, was where I saw the red flag.